Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're heading into day 2 of the college basketball season. It was really fun to get things started yesterday, and I had a lot of fun personally tracking all the games and getting to watch some of the teams that I was looking forward to seeing how they were going to open the season play yesterday. So that was pretty fun. Obviously today there's not nearly as many games on the board given the fact that college football season's still going on. So these schools try to schedule it so that their football and basketball teams aren't playing on the same day. But we do have a few games, just a handful, to cover in this video. And just as a kind of an intro to this video, for all those that hit the like button and subscribed yesterday for our first video, it's much appreciated. If you want to subscribe, you can get notifications when we release these videos. I should be releasing them pretty much on a consistently daily basis. And if you want more content than just beyond, the things that I touch on in this video, you can head over to stumpthespread.com. And if you're on a desktop, you can just click this logo right here and it'll take you right over there, and you can register a free account to get our free content, or you can also register a premium account to get all of our highest confidence plays. And that's pretty much it for that. So heading into day 2 of college basketball, the first game I'm going to be talking about here is going to be Towson versus George Mason. We have a Towson team that is a pretty physical group, and this is a Tiger squad that's expected to finish right up at the top of their conference this year. This is a Towson squad that has some of the better players in their conference, with guys like Moto and Morsel. They're kind of combo guys that are tough to guard and can really do a lot of things on both ends of the court. And then you have a George Mason team that, after getting off to a pretty nice start last year, they fell off, and then in conference play they just really weren't able to do a whole lot. And part of that had to do with the fact that it's a pretty young team, and this is still one of the younger teams in college basketball. Even though George Mason does have more depth this year, which is a positive for them. I believe they only have 2 upperclassmen, so that's not a ton of experience on this team, and they're just going to have to work their way through that as they lean on a lot of underclassmen to lead their squad. The Patriots might be able to take a step forward this year, just given how much they fell off towards the end of last year. And then you have a Towson squad that put together a respectable campaign last year, winning 20 games, and they're expected to take a step forward this season, and getting off to a good start here would be nice for the Tigers. In what's pretty much a pick'em, we do feel like the Tigers have the better betting value here on the road against the Patriots. All right, the next game that we're going to be talking about is Toledo versus St. Joe. This Toledo basketball program has been a pretty consistent performer in recent years, but this is a Toledo squad that took a fairly significant step back last year. Even though they were expected to do some pretty nice things, they barely finished above 500. And then for the Rockets, unfortunately for them, they graduate their best player, the big man Booth, who averaged nearly 20 points per game a year ago. And also they have to deal with the fact that their starting point guard transferred, and he averaged in double figures as well. So this is going to be a little less experienced of a Rockets team than what we've seen in recent years, and it's going to be interesting to see how this squad comes out of the gate as a result of losing some of their more important players in this past offseason. St. Joe had a tremendous amount of success last year, and it was really fun watching this group, but they were definitely leaning heavily on their top guys to lead the team, and with some of those pieces moving on, the Hawks aren't expected to be nearly as good this year, but the Hawks do bring in some really intriguing pieces to build around, and they do bring back enough to kind of build around and lead this younger group. This isn't a Hawks team that's likely to compete for a spot in the NCAA tournament like they did last season. They probably will finish more in the mid to lower tier of the A10, but this is definitely a game that you would expect St. Joe's to win on their home court, behind their home court advantage against this Toledo squad that's going to kind of be picking up the pieces here early on in the year. So we think that St. Joe's giving the points is the better play in this one. It would be nice if we had more information on Jack Gibbs, but he's going to be more of a game time decision in this one. This Davidson squad is going to be pretty strong this year based on the fact that they bring back a lot of talent, and we just expect this group to put up a ton of points on the offensive side of the ball. And if they can improve defensively, this is definitely a team that's a threat to win their conference championship, or at least finish in the upper tier. But unfortunately, we don't have a spread for this particular matchup. Moving down, talking about Akron versus Youngstown State. This is a Akron Zips basketball program that's really been a very consistent performer, especially in the MAC conference in recent years. I'd be surprised if the Zips were unable to win the MAC East. It seems like they're pretty heavily favored to do that this year, and we would expect this team, if everything goes right, to get out of the MAC and make the NCAA tournament probably at around a 13 seed if they can, obviously if their important players can stay healthy and if this team plays up to their expectations. But we still have a lot of games left to be played for the Zips here. And then you have Youngstown State, who a really fun team to watch. They really like to get up and down and push the pace, and this is a group that definitely knows how to put up a lot of points. Going against this veteran Akron squad, which returns pretty much all of their important pieces from last year's squad, we expect the Zips to come in ready to go right out of the gate and to be coached up and ready to deal with this Youngstown State fast pace of play. We think that could really make this a very high-scoring game, which gives the points a little less value. Obviously, in a lower-scoring game, the more points, or points in general, just have a more value. But as the game is expected to be higher scoring, these points have a little less value as a result. And we just really like this Akron squad. They can really shoot the ball from behind the arc, which is always important. And we do think that they have the offensive output to outpace the Penguins here as they go on to cover this moderate spread here on the road. All right, moving down, we got Nebraska Omaha versus UC Santa Barbara. This is an Omaha squad that is expected to finish kind of in the middle area of the Summit League, and the Summit League is often overlooked, but the Summit League usually has one team that makes the tournament every year that's around that 12-13 range that has always a chance at that first round upset. We've seen that from teams like South Dakota State and North Dakota State in recent years, and this is an Omaha squad that can compete with teams like North Dakota State and South Dakota State, but it would be surprising to see Omaha really truly push the upper tier teams in their conference this year. And then you have a UC Santa Barbara squad. This is another team that's expected to kind of finish in the mid to upper tier of their respective conference out there in the Big West. UC Santa Barbara returns some nice pieces to work around, and getting this game on their home court should definitely give them a boost in this one. This is kind of a Big West versus Summit, and what's kind of a good matchup to see how these leagues compare in terms of where these teams are expected to finish are pretty comparable for their respective leagues. But we do think that the Big West is often overlooked. Like, for instance, last year we had Hawaii get the bid out of that league, and they made some waves in the NCAA tournament, and it's a league that had a team like UC Irvine, which is another squad that could have potentially won a game or two in the NCAA tournament. So I kind of like watching and following a lot of Big West action, and I believe they had about 4 teams finish in the top 100 of the RPI, which is pretty impressive for a mid-major conference. But anyways, this is a UC Santa Barbara squad that's expected to finish in a similar spot to where they were last year, which was right about, I think they finished about 99th in the RPI, but we do expect the Gauchos to come through here and cover this 6-point spread. All right, moving on here, we have Northern Colorado against Butler. Northern Colorado disappointed last year. It wasn't a complete failure considering the fact that the Bears performed adequately, at least in conference play, but as a result of only winning, I think they won about 11 games last year, they decided to fire their head coach and bring someone else in. And unfortunately for this Northern Colorado squad, they're pretty inexperienced, and they also are dealing with some sanctions right now. And whenever you're dealing with sanctions and bringing in a new head coach, that's not always the greatest situation. It could be quite a few years before this Northern Colorado squad turns around. Northern Colorado does have really has two really strong players, but with Anthony Johnson being out, that's really unfortunate for them in this particular matchup. And then you have a Butler team that, last year they proved that they could pretty much play with anyone in the country when they were playing at their highest level, but they were also pretty inconsistent with their results. And this group is expected to be just as good, if not better, than last year's squad coming into the season, which is kind of surprising considering the fact that guys like Kellen Dunham and Roosevelt Jones have moved on after being two of the more important players for Butler last year. But you still have Martin, who's one of the top players in the Big East, and he's expected to build off of last season where he averaged about 16 points per game. I'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't able to even get a higher average this particular year, just considering the fact that Butler's really going to have to lean on his production for them to have the kind of success that people are expecting the Bulldogs to have this year. This is a ton of points to give here, and just the fact that there is a bit of an unknown here with Butler coming into the year. It's more on the offensive side of the ball, given the fact that Jones and Dunham are no longer kind of leading things on that side of the ball. So it could be a little difficult for Butler to cover a spread of this magnitude as they try to figure things out early on here. And also Northern Colorado knows that they need to try to lock down Martin, and they'll do everything they can to try to make it so that someone else is the person that beats them. But in what should definitely be a significant Butler win, we do still feel like Northern Colorado getting the generous amount of points is the slightly better value play here. And then the last game we're going to be talking about for Saturday's action is going to be Wofford versus LSU. So this is an LSU team that obviously greatly underperformed last year's expectations, and now with Ben Simmons gone and even a veteran like Keith Hornsby, it's going to be really tough to replace those guys' leadership, obviously, of Hornsby, and then you have the sheer production that Ben Simmons brought to the table, which was really invaluable for LSU to keep their heads above water last year. You have a LSU squad that's going to be a bit inexperienced, and they're going to lean heavily on a guy like Blankeny to lead this squad, and big things are expected out of him. It's going to be interesting to see how LSU adapts with their new roster that has some different guys that they're going to have to lean on this year for production. And then you have a Wofford team that comes out of the Southern Conference, which is a conference that has some pretty strong teams in it actually this year. We really are pretty high on teams like Chattanooga and East Tennessee State. We picked them yesterday as pretty high confidence plays, and they were both able to come through in pretty significant fashion in their respective matchups. But this Wofford squad, they graduated some guys, but last year's Terriers team was more of a middle-of-the-pack squad in the Southern Conference, slightly underperforming last year's expectations. This is a Wofford team that has some guys that can really shoot the ball, which is always important. They are going to be leaning more on their backcourt. They have a pretty strong returning backcourt, which is what the Terriers will be leaning on. And having veteran guard play is always important, especially earlier on in the year and in these road environments. We can see that this spread has gone to -11 to -8.5, and this is probably a combination of just people thinking that LSU really struggled at times last year, and now this go-around they don't have the same kind of talent and output, so the Tigers are expected to take a fairly significant step back this year. And then you have a Wofford team that can fill it up from the outside, and if they get hot and leaning on their veteran backcourt, they should be able to at least keep things respectable in here and maybe even push for the upset if everything goes right for them. But we do feel like Wofford getting the points here is going to be the better value bet. And that pretty much does it for Saturday's action. Obviously there was a lot more games for Friday's action, but we still have a lot of college football stuff going on this year, and once college football ends, then we'll be getting just a ton more action on Saturday, but still early in the year, obviously, just heading into the second day of the season. So yeah, not a ton of value on the board today, just in terms of teams that have a huge edge on the spread that they're given. And these days where there's only like between 5 to 10 games to pick from, it's a little harder to find that value compared to days like yesterday when there was, I don't know, probably like 70 or so games to choose from. But thanks for watching, guys. You can subscribe to get more of these videos in the future. And again, you can head over to stumpthespread.com and get our daily free plays. We usually have at least one pickup there on our main site every day. And you can just register there for free to get access to that content. So thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content, and we'll see you tomorrow for another round of college basketball picks. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you then. Bye.